Hi, welcome back to my channel. Have you ever wondered what it's like to work for Disney? Now, have you ever wondered what it's like to work for Disney in another country? Well, that's what we're going to touch on today. I'm sitting next to my sister Giselle, and she got to work for Tokyo Disney for almost 2 years. Hi, Giselle.
Hi, it's me, Giselle, the sister.
Yeah, I'm so excited. She has so many great stories to tell, and we're going to get right into it. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Gelsey, Laurie, and I've spent over 17 years professionally performing. I've done everything from theme parks to Broadway shows, cruise ships to flying high with Cirque du Soleil. I'm so excited to bring you the insight of behind the curtain. All right, let's go. Giselle.
Yes.
Give us like a little brief history of your entertainment career life, from maybe how you got started growing up, which if you've seen my story video, it's going to sound a little familiar because we did grow up together. Go.
Okay, so if you've seen her videos, our mom had a dance studio. We always were had to go with her when she would teach ballet when we were babies. And then we just grew up in this dance world. We started dancing at like a little recreation dance studio when we were kids. And then we got heavily into ballet. I mean, I was so laser focused on joining a professional ballet company once I hit 7th grade, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started doing summer intensives. I went to The Rock. Well, The Rock was my last one. So the first one I went to was ABT. They have these satellite programs. So I went to the one in Austin, Texas, in between 8th and 9th grade. And then between 9th and 10th grade, I went to Brooklyn Ballet up in Vermont. And then I was able to get the chance to perform with like a student youth ballet company in Scotland at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I know, it's like,
forgot about that.
Who does that? I know, I'm so used to it because I'm like, oh yeah, obviously. But like, what an experience.
What an experience.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know as well, if you're training growing up in the intense ballet world, there's something called summer intensives. These are professional ballet companies that open up their school to younger children for like basically ballet summer camp. But it's a very prestigious thing. It's very hard to get into. You have to audition for all of them. And you see a lot of growth. And I mean, how could you not get better when you're going for 6 weeks and just training hours and hours and hours with professionals?
That's not the point of a summer intensive is
for the companies to make money.
That's how you basically get, that's a one pathway to joining a professional ballet company if you're going to go concert dance route. So
Absolutely.
That's how they recruit to see who's going to stay in their school program for the full winter season. And then from that little group of people, then that's who they hire for their company to dance professionally. So that was like where I was focused in. And then I went to The Rock.
I did too.
The same year. So I was in their highest level. They offered for me to wanted me to stay on scholarship year round, wanted me to get placed in a company. And I remember having this epiphany. I thought about it for like 4 days. Like, okay, do I quit high school and do high school finish out with their like independent study program just so I could start working? And I wasn't ready to leave high school. I wasn't ready to move away from home yet. I was 16. And I realized that was good enough. I'm like, oh, I could see the trajectory of my whole ballet career. And I'm like, I'm good. I did it. I felt like I was able to get that accomplishment and sense of satisfaction from achieving. The offer was enough for me. And then I'm like, if I'm going to pursue a career in dance, where are the feathers? Where are the rhinestones?
That's exactly. I don't know if you've watched my video of my story, but I kind of said that when I talk about my ballet career and how like why I kind of exited ballet was I quote center stage where I'm like, I don't want to be in the back just waving a rose back and forth while some prima gets the spotlight. I was like, I want the spotlight. But Giselle and I are both, even though we went through the really intense professional ballet route, our mom's studio really gave us our heart and soul. And it was more recreational, but it was more like entertainment. It was more the rhinestones, the feathers, like, let's just entertain you, kickball change and fishnets. Like, that's where we thrive. We did shows in our living room for our parents every weekend. It just was always like the show. It wasn't about the pristine of, I don't know. Right. Yeah.
But then I stayed home for that. And then I went to UC Irvine's dance department. And it was always like a non-negotiable. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. Now I went to college for me, I didn't really know my why I was there. I was majoring in dance. They have an incredible dance department, but I was pretty much like as good as I'm going to get at that point. I was trained. I was ready to go to auditions. And so I started to do that. I started working at Disneyland with Gelsey.
Mm-hmm.
We did parades together, and that was I love some of those memories.
Oh my gosh, they're the best. I talk about them in my Disneyland video if you
Yeah.
haven't seen that, but touching on like we got to do something called a pre-parade, which is like a little float that goes out before the parade.
Mhm.
And the movie Bolt, which you probably haven't even heard of because it really didn't do that well, but we got to do the Bolt pre-parade and we were the only ones on the float. It was like the dog and then Giselle and I together as
Yeah, it was like a
cheerleaders.
dog and a cat. And then we were like,
And then her and I were like, yay! It was, I think, what was I, 17? I think I was 17.
I was 20.
And you were 20.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Oh my
20.
God, so fun.
And then I just started this like hustle mode. So like if you're like starting out and you're like, what am I doing? You have to keep your knives sharpened. So I started driving out in between like parades and stuff. I would drive out from Riverside to Costa Mesa at this one studio that is no longer there. And I would take their 10 a.m. to 11:30 class, Monday through Friday, drive all the way back home to Riverside. So an hour. And then I would have lunch at home. And then I would drive all the way out to Disneyland. So another hour and then an hour home. So I was driving like about 4 hours a day just to know my knives were sharpened. It was fun.
You have
at the
to, I mean,
time.
and
You
when
just
we're
do
younger,
it.
I've talked about this, like, you have the energy to do that. Like, now I hear that and I'm like, oh my God, but
No,
I'm in my 30s. Like, but I also say, yeah, when you're young, like, use and abuse your energy and your resilience because that's like, I lived in New York at that time, like right after this, and I've talked about it, but I couldn't do that again today. Like, I don't even know how I did it. And I was like, oh yeah, I was 18. Like,
yeah, I think about that too. Like your stamina is different as you age. So once I got to that point and I was like at Disneyland and I was comfy, my routine was comfy. And then I turned 21 and I just started going to any audition that was posted. I'm like, you just go. And then you just have to worry about yourself. My friend from a cruise ship contract we would always talk about people that you go to see at the auditions and they're doing something called the Intima stretch. And you're like,
I've never heard that before.
Isn't that funny? We're like, oh my God, you're right.
What's the Intima stretch?
Any stretch and them looking like a bee. Like they're just like leg up, like, oh,
dude,
I'm the best.
It's
and then
so real. You go to
you
auditions and they're like, everyone has this, it's totally out of insecurities and everyone's like, oh shit, like who's here? Are they better than me? And everyone's kind of like looking around and we're all just like insecure deep down performers. Like we just are. But people put it off. Yeah, there is a handful of like this defense that's like, I'm better than you. I'm going to beat you. And it's like, why?
Well, our dad gave us some of the best advice that I held true to every audition I've ever been through. And it's just worry about yourself. Don't worry about anyone else that is in the audition room. So she mentioned Tokyo Disney. The audition in Hollywood out in LA was probably 800 people in LA auditioning. And that includes all of the people that were I was at the open call, not even at the like AGVA call. Like, so union. So a lot of these performers will get an agent and then they're on union and then they can only audition for certain things, but then you get exclusive invitations to go audition, right? So I wasn't in any of that. I was like, I'm just going to go.
Cattle call. When it's an open call, it's just called a cattle call because you're just all moving in like a big herd.
The Japan audition, I auditioned twice. My first one, I made it all the way through, and I don't think I remembered that. I talked to everyone. Yeah, it was like about in October, November. I made it all the way through. They loved me. I was so humbled by the experience, and I sat at the very end. There were only 4 of us left, and I watched their video about like, this is what it's like to work here. You get to live in this place called E-Village, Entertainment Village. This is where everyone from around the world, Australia, Europeans, Americans come together to create this Disney magic for Japan. And you were like, oh my God, I want that. And then I didn't get it.
It's the worst when companies do that. They're like, let me show you what you want into depth, and we're going to make you think you got the job. And then they're like, oh, sorry. You're like, why did you do that to me?
So here's what I realized. You just keep your focus and maintain resilience. Mm-hmm. So I went back to the audition in February, about 6 months later, and same thing. But here's how networking and the windows open for you. Mm-hmm. I get to the audition, and the girl who hired and choreographed our Bolt pre-parade was the person that was at the audition teaching us our choreography. She had an in, she knew me, she knew how my work ethic was, she knew what I was capable of. And every time we could leave, she could help advise the people who were casting. You don't get that type of opportunity. Those things happen organically if you say yes.
And I just want to stress real quick too, what's so important in entertainment is not only like networking, obviously it's who you know, but sometimes you don't know the person you're working next to in a show, if their career is going to go up in becoming a casting director, choreographer. Like sometimes your coworker who's your equal will the next year be the one hiring. And so if you're kind of like a piece of crap to work with and backstage you're complaining all the time or you're bossy,
took the words out of my mouth.
It's like so important to keep a good reputation. And I think a lot of performers, unfortunately, I don't mean to like pinpoint us as dancers, but specifically dancers, like there is a little bit of ego diva error sometimes, a lot of times. And I've seen it bite people in the butt and not get them jobs because the dancer that was their equal ended up being the one hiring later, and they're like, I'm not hiring them. They're horrible to work with. So it's so true. Something to think about.
Yeah, so anyways, so like I went to this audition. I was excited to see her, but still humbled by the experience. Went through the entire thing. They had me go. It was so embarrassing. They had me like on a scale of 1 to 10, slowly shout out Shira Yukihime, which means Snow White in Japanese, and with rage of intensity increasing because...
Can you give us a little sample of it? You don't have to go through
Shira Yukihime! Like that.
I was not expecting that. Like, I expect that from you because this is just who she is, but like, I just thought there's going to be like a beat.
No, you just... See, but this is
You can't hesitate.
Thing. You just have... You're like, yeah, your heart's pounding. You're like... I look effing ridiculous. This is so embarrassing. And everyone is sitting crisscross applesauce trying to compete with you.
I'm like judging you.
I'm telling you, you have to just, all of your pride, throw it out the window and go for the experience, because that is when you are just not focused on time, when you're focused and you're in the moment, you are truly present. And best advice, pushing yourself to the front and always making eye contact with the panel of judges, people who are hiring you.
Our parents taught us that from a young age.
Have to play that game. Really? If you do that and focus on yourself, also be really good, but like focus on
like go to class and get technique. Like be a good, if it's a dance audition, be a good dancer. If it's a sing audition, like be a good singer.
So I don't know how it's run now, because when I got hired, I went and I did 2 consecutive contracts. I did summer 2009.
So you got that's the audition you got hired at.
I got hired.
Yes. So it was second time's the charm.
Yes, the second one was when I got hired. It wasn't my summer. I went in August of 2009 for rehearsals that then started performing for all of winter 09 and 10. And then I got to extend my contract and joined another cast when all of my cast left, and then switch groups.
So what did you get hired for?
I got hired as a dancer for a show called One Man's Dream 2, The Magic Lives On. It was so incredible.
It's so good. It's on YouTube. I'll try to see if I can find a link and I'll put it down. I don't think that show exists anymore.
No, it's not there anymore.
It's such a cute show. It
was an outdoor amphitheater in their Tomorrowland at Disneyland in Japan. It was so cute. But going back before we move into what it was like there, the audition process at that time was they do classical ballet combo, and it's usually a waltz combo across the floor, because they want to see your port de bras, so your arms and head focus and how you connect everything together. And they want to see exactly how intact your ballet technique is, because that gets you through the door.
So many auditions.
In this, I didn't really do ballet. I was in heeled character shoes the entire show.
Yeah.
So like
But technique, they want to make sure like ballet is where technique is.
You have to have your ducks in a row. Know your ballet.
Quack.
Yes.
Because I am stupid.
Okay. So after this ballet section, then they're like, okay, they make you stand like in a line or they in a big group and you get your numbers called, or they say like get all the numbers, and then they're like if you heard your number, girl, bye. They're like, okay, thank you for coming, we're not interested at this time. And you're like, oh,
I hate that part of auditions when they sit there and like call out the numbers and you always have a big number like pinned to your leotard.
Because they
very chorus line, and you're sitting there and they're like, we're gonna call numbers that get to stay, and you're like, please number 999, and like hearing them go through.
Yeah,
it's such a terrible part of it. I hate that part. But it's also exciting when your number gets called.
So fun little story. So Gelsey moved out when she was a baby at 16, and she started doing parades at Disneyland. She lived with 2 other girls out in Orange County.
Yeah.
And so I remember I drove out and spent the night at her apartment because I'm like, oh, and we're going to go do parades tomorrow. I'll spend the night and we'll just whatever. I don't know what we did. Watch stupid movies that we could quote.
Step Brothers.
Yeah, it was Step Brothers or something. So I get out there and I'm like, oh, let me just get on your computer real fast because I need to check my email. Because at the time, we didn't have like iPhones. We're not a thing yet.
There were no iPhones.
No.
I had a flip. No, I had the chocolate slide, but you didn't get emails on it, and it still was T9 text. You had to like go through like 33333
I still
find
had
a letter.
At this point,
you had a razor.
I still had a razor.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. It was like, it looks like a My Diary, like an electronic diary thing. It was a Verizon that opened.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, fluke. And
anyways,
like,
they slid and flipped open, which
it was not an iPhone. So we were in your apartment.
That's right.
And I checked my email and I got my congratulations.
That's right.
Job offer for Tokyo. And we were screaming, jumping on your bed. Because
Yes,
it was like, you did it.
It was like every job I know for me has been like the dream job. And then it's kind of one of those things. And I think this is just life, is like once you get your goal over time, you become, it becomes normal. You become adapted. It's actually not complacent or just like, but you start going like, what's the next mountain to climb? And that's just life. But I remember that being like that. I remember thinking for you. And like, for me, like that was a peak. Like
that was a huge,
Disneyland was a peak for us.
Yeah.
Like when we got our jobs
huge.
at Disneyland, which now we're like, oh, that's cute. Like, I mean, it's nothing like great job, but
I would hate working.
I just did. I just had to resign. Lawsuits. But it's like in that moment, it's so fun to go back and be like, oh my God, that's right. I mean, it's like thinking when you were 5 years old and you do something and you're like, that was the biggest deal ever. And now looking back, you're like, yeah, I didn't pee the bed. Like,
right.
Like,
no,
but it is cool. Like I do remember, like, I wish I could relive some of those feelings.
Anyways, going back,
on the bed. You got Japan.
Yes. I got Japan. And so I was kind of on I can chill party mode from when my job offer was given to me end of April 2009. And I left August 9th, 2009.
There's definitely, I've done that too. Like when I get a contract offer, and it's normally you get an offer like months before, like if it's a cruise ship or this, that, it's not like, hey, you're leaving in 2 weeks, unless it's an emergency replacement kind of a deal.
Right.
So normally you have that space, and there is this sense of like, oh, I got the job, I can chill a little bit. Yeah, like you should still stay on your game because they expect you to be as good as you were at the audition. I was just
going to say that. So because it became who I was, I thoroughly enjoyed taking these dance classes every
Which
day.
I hope you would. If what you are doing is dancing and you love it, then
I loved going. So I just kept my routine up. So that way I could also stay sharp and be impressive when I got there. I needed to know that I could trust myself once I got there when I was nervous. So I just went to classes, did my thing, did Disneyland, but I just cut out auditions. I just didn't hustle for that anymore. I'm like, that's okay. Nice. Oh, and then I taught at Mom's Dance Studio. So I was able to make some side cash doing that. And then the combo of doing that, working at Disneyland, the rate living at home and the rate of inflation living in 2009 when all that happened, everything was very affordable.
What happened?
I know. I'm like, it was really manageable for me at that time.
Live my life as an entertainer anymore. No. It doesn't pay enough. It still pays so low and everything is so expensive.
Our parents were so sweet too.
Gone to college.
They were like, if you live at home, we will feed you.
They were very supportive.
So, I mean, we were very fortunate in that situation.
Yeah. We just had to live under the rules. We still had curfew no matter what age we were at.
There are ways around that.
She snuck out a lot.
Just saying.
She was the rebel.
I told you, there are two sides of this story, and I don't know how much of this story you are willing to share with people.
It's up to you. It's your story to share. If you are like, I share a lot of my stuff, like, to a degree of the truth, because
I'll be honest now. I am 36. I had just turned 21 when I got my job offer.
That's a baby.
And in Japan, I had my 22nd birthday. I was on go mode, like
party.
I had never really had much alcohol.
That was my cruise ship years
ever in my life before.
It was basically college.
Yeah, when I was in college, because I only stayed at UCI for a year and a half, and then audition. It for lack of better words, it wasn't for me. I was majoring in dance. I didn't need to get a degree in dance to dance. You have to just be good. So I'm like,
I feel like unless you and I'm not knocking a degree in dance at all, but I know a couple of my friends have gone that route, but they wanted to be professors of dance in college. Like that's, there's reasons you might need it, but
I would,
personal choice and journey.
If you are, let's say, a dancer and you're like, well, I want to go to college, get a degree. Am I on?
I'm just making sure we're green.
Okay. Get a degree in something else that's muggle, that's more real life, practical, just as a fallback for later on in your future.
Yeah, and I will
don't stay.
I will check on that. That is something I heavily want to dive into with like multiple videos about the B plan, which I always hated. What's your backup plan? It's like, I don't need one. I don't have one. I'm gonna do it. That's great, but injuries are a reality, and sometimes you get kicked in the head like I did, and it completely shifts your path. And I'm like, crap, now what? But you know what? Now I'm here on YouTube.
Yeah.
And hopefully you enjoy these stories.
Well, especially for dancers, young dancers, I know I didn't stretch before shows. I could just
That's another thing, taking care of your body.
Yeah. So I have sprained my left ankle 11 times in my career.
She'll just be standing. She stands and she's just like, I sprained my ankle. I'm like, how? But it's so loose.
It's so loose. And my right one, I've sprained 2 or 3 times. It's pretty bad. So I got to Japan. I was with 2 other dancers on my flight that we went over, and they were very, very nice to me. And we went over, and I was so like out of my element. I am alone in a new place, and it's not even like
a new country.
Yes, it's not even like the characters are different. You can't even try to pronounce the locations that you see on the signs. It's not like salida. You're like,
yeah, at least if you go to Europe and it's like Spanish or French, you're like, I can at least pronounce what the word might be because it's an S, a D, like some things. But this is like, it's Japanese. There's no English characters anywhere.
So like, so I just like clung to these 2 dancers from the LA audition or from the flight. And they kind of really helped me get acclimated, which is so selfless and so kind of them. Mm-hmm. So we went in, and then the person who had to pick up the dancers, we get into a van. It was a little rapey, but like the van was, not the people, but the vibe was a little bit like, are you sure? This is kind of sketch. Like we're getting in this, so we just get in this van. I have like a big box. I've got all this stuff, which if you're going on your first contract, you don't need
as much
to be moving.
Yeah.
You're not moving your life. You're there for a short time.
And you can buy what you don't have.
Yes, that's huge. Because I remember mom's like, you're moving to Japan. I don't have a lot of regrets. I regret the way I packed for Japan.
You should see how I packed granted, I was moving to New York when I moved. I didn't have much. I didn't take furniture, but it was just like clothes. But I took so much.
I didn't.
But it was, I feel like your first big contractor move, like
it's huge.
You overpack, but you don't need to.
In a lot of experiences in life, you can get advice for 3 different directions, and until you go through it yourself and experience and try to make these decisions on the fly, plan and use your own sense of self and intuition in the moment. I mean,
we can say don't overpack. You're gonna overpack. I still overpack.
I know.
I still overpack.
It's almost irrelevant because it's like you go do it. But it's fun to hear these anecdotal stories about about similar
Yeah.
times of when we were performing. So anyways, we get into the van, they drop us off at E-Village, and it's like, oh my God.
What is E-Village?
E-Village is the entertainment village, the apartment complex, like I mentioned before in the video that we watched at the auditions. So we pull up, and it's like seeing your celebrity. Like, I was so stars in my eyes looking at this place. Like, this is the house, like the big apartment complex that I saw in the video for my first audition, that I'm like, oh my God, this is where I'm in room. I think I was in room A515.
Sure. I was going to say sounds familiar, but I'm like,
I was on the 5th floor in the A building, which was like the best building, by the way. So I remember being like, wow, this is just so over the top. And you get into your tiny apartment. It's a studio apartment that they get. It was so cute.
So Tokyo.
It was so Japan. It was adorable. It was just looked like a little hospital room, to be honest, really. I mean, because you have to decorate it yourself, but you get there and you're like
college dorm room
when you first get there.
Yeah.
So you get there and then they're like, okay, good night. And then you're like, okay, I can't let my parents know that I got here safely. I don't have money how do I call home? I don't have internet. Okay, where were those other 2 people that I briefly met that are dancers in my show? I need to find them, because I know that they'll at least be a comfort point, because it is a little intimidating.
And you have like someone to do it with you.
Yeah, it's intimidating when you get to that point. But they're pretty good with spoon feeding everything. So I got there, I found those 2 dancers, and they're like, we're going to the Hub. I'm like, what's that? They're like, it's like the bar that everyone went to after work every night. And it was on the basement level of this hotel that was like for Disney, but it was 3 stations over. And I'm like, okay. They're like, well, do you want to come with us and get a drink? And I'm like, sure. So we get there, and it's like, go into this basement that looks like it's all brick everywhere.
It's like a British pub.
It looks like a British
London.
pub.
Feels like you're in London.
And it's covered with a layer of cigarette smoke. It was the way that the Japanese at this time, in my experience, smoked. It was so impressive because it was so much. It was just like, wow. I don't smell cigarette smoke on any of your clothes, but like, you guys are just like chain. Like, it was crazy. I think I even bought a pack when I was there, because I'm like,
culture.
God, I'm stressed. I missed my train. And I'm like, I didn't even finish that pack. I'm like, I don't smoke.
I've done that in my life. I've definitely had a pack of cigarettes in my car when I was a teenager. And I think I bought a long cigarette holder and like smoked 2 driving around like Cruella DeVille. And then like, I was like, I don't smoke. Like, no. It's like, you kind of have to just like try it. I feel like every kid goes through touch the stove.
So we do that. Like, so that was like a very big coming of age location for me, because attached to this bar in the same hotel, there was also karaoke rooms. And then at the train station, there were karaoke rooms right across from this Italian restaurant called Caesarea. And
what's the karaoke bar you took us to?
There is a few.
There's a lot.
It's very fun. It's very, very fun. Anyways, that was a big, though that location specifically, I learned a lot of life lessons just going there after work. That first morning I wake up in Japan, I notice also like the bed, it's like the thinnest sheets ever. I'm like, it's on my list. I make a list. I'm like, I need to buy sheets. I need to buy some like shampoo, conditioner. They didn't provide toilet paper. It was just 1 roll. And it's like, okay, I need toilet paper. I need to get a phone card, an international calling card, so I can confirm with mom and dad
that you're alive and in Tokyo.
That was a big concern for me. Yeah. And then I need to get my internet up, because the other people last night said that they're going to do it. And he was our dance captain, who's scheduled to be our dance captain. He had done 1 or 2 other contracts before. So he was like, okay, don't worry. I'm having somebody come to set up internet. It's like, join our family plan. Like, it was like, I've got you. Don't worry.
It's so funny. It's so crazy just how different that time was. It's like not that long ago, but now we have iPhones. Like, the bar you were at would have had Wi-Fi, and you've been like, no problem. And it's just like,
it's different.
It's so different. And I forgot how much of how to connect to home, because I went through the same thing, just leaving the house. It's a little country alone.
It's a little bit intimidating. And so then the next day, I woke up and I went downstairs in my dance rehearsal clothes and like a little backpack or whatever. And then I met all of the dancers in my first contract. And everyone was so friendly. They were all from like Australia, UK. We had no Russians in our cast because we weren't actually speaking in the show. We were just dancing and lip syncing. So even if you didn't speak English, it wasn't an issue as long as you had the correct aesthetic and dance technique. That's all they cared about.
Because for most of the show, you're dancing as like a chorus, a group, but then you all also within the show play different Disney princesses.
You would portray a different character.
So they kind of had to fit the right look and height, like she said. Like,
and you could only have like 3 Cinderellas cast at once in a cast. So then I was never cast as a Cinderella. I did the Sleeping Beauty track.
Yeah, no, I know.
So, and a track in a show is usually like, okay, you start like the Sleeping Beauty track starts as like the orange dancer the dances in front of Mickey Mouse. That track, it's like literally, what is your string of events that happens throughout the duration of the show from the top to bottom? Mm-hmm. So that's what's called a track. So I did Sleeping Beauty track. I did the Evil Queen track because they were so impressed with my shitty yukahime, obviously.
So were we.
I know. I was like, obviously.
We're like, booked, hired. You got that for life.
And then I did something what they call a Japanese track. So I was not a character. I was just one of the dancers, which was the most dance heavy in the show. And it was labor intensive when you were doing that one.
That was a pretty intense dance show.
It was it was a dance show. It really, really was. Anyways, so that first day they take all of us, and the apartment complex E-Village is over a mile away from the train station that we'd have to get to because we didn't we didn't live close where you could just like right next door walk and go to the park and clock in and go to Disney. It's like, no, you had to walk about like a mile, 2 miles to the train station, get on the train station, figure out how that worked, know which platform to go to. And it was 2 or 3 stops to get to Disney, Maihama station, get out, and then know how to navigate from the exit of the train station to know where you can access points to go backstage at Disneyland and have your ID and then know where to even go. There was a second way that we could go and enter to get to my stage. And if you got on the bus, it was no big deal. But if you walked, it was so hard. It took me 6 months to learn how to get from that entry point to walk through these like dingy tunnels and stuff. And I will say there's even
Disneyland's not even that complex, but there are some backstage areas of Disneyland in California that like, if you don't know where you're going, you're going to be like, I'm in this underground tunnel. I don't know where I'm at. And there's 2 lefts and like,
yeah. And then it's all in Japanese.
And that's what I was saying. I was like, Disneyland isn't even that complicated, and it's complicated, and it's at least there's English.
Yeah. But then there's all these other people that you're with and like getting to know, and everyone, you realize the majority of these people are all experiencing all of this for the first time along with you. So it's comforting to know that all of y'all know nothing. Like you're like, okay, great. Okay, linking elbows, we're safe.
The game was always like find the person who's like, this is their 3rd contract. They've done it before. And it's like, I always like on cruise ship contracts would like link to them. And I'm like, you know everything. Guide me.
So piggyback, I'm going to fast forward to them. We're now at the middle of my contract in winter. So the situation that you mentioned before about making sure that you are minding your manners because of other people. I'll be honest, I made friends with some people outside of my cast and started drinking during this contract. So it happens a lot for dancers, and alcohol is so fun and available. But especially when you're young, like 21, 22, I started hitting up the bars every night going on adventures before doing these 5 shows every single day. Oof. It is exhausting. Your body can't handle it.
Goes back to that, like, you can't even handle it young, but like, again, the things we did young that now I think about doing, and I'm like, I could
absolutely
never
not
do that.
Absolutely
Die.
So I pretty much had alienated myself from almost everyone in my cast. Everyone didn't like me. And
you were that girl?
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was that they kind of ganged up on me at some point. And it's because, sometimes you might have authentic communications and relationships with people. The chemistry is just organic and it flows. With 90% of my first cast, I didn't have that chemistry. And I felt alone. The only person I did was outside of my cast. So it's like, okay, I started hanging out with them. And so then, without saying anything, a narrative started to be told about me. But then I also caught myself speaking poorly with my opinion and being like, oh yeah, like joining group mentality to make fun of another that was in my cast.
Oh, it's such a real thing. Yeah.
And to this day, I mean, I've apologized heavily to that person, and I have a lot of remorse, and I still feel sick to my stomach about it because that is not who I am at all to this day. But at that point, it was very pivotal to me when I knew I was the only girl who at that point got extended and offered to stay and continue the show, and everyone else had to go home and leave. And so they became very bitter and resentful because they're like, why did she get it? But I also I was like,
you're still good at your job.
I was still, yeah, I was. But when you're doing the same show 5 times a day, 5 days a week, you can get complacent or lazy very quick, where you are spaced out and you just have like a glazed over, like
you're just going through the motions, and it's not that extra thing. It totally happens.
I remember in the middle of that contract, like 2 months in, my dance captain sat me down and he goes, hey, you're just not doing as well as I think you should be. And I took it to heart, and I was really humiliated for myself. I'm like, that's not how.
You're like, I can be better.
I can be better. Yeah, I really didn't like that version of me. And I'm like, you're right. This is not easy doing the same thing over and over. So it's not that hard of a show for me at this point in my life, but like,
it gets boring.
I'm like, okay, you have to find the moments that of the routine that you like, because it is Groundhog Day. It is like, it just is so repetitive. You wake up and do the exact same thing, but you're dancing and you're in costumes and you're creating this magic for all of those little cute kids that are sitting in the audience seeing their favorite stories.
Don't lie. It's Tokyo. It's all adults in the audience. They are obsessed.
No, there's
in Japan. They're just all the adults pushing the kids out, and they're like, we like the show. And they're the ones waiting in line for characters to hug them. And I love it there so much.
That would happen a lot too. But gosh, it's so nice to reminisce about all of this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I haven't thought about this in a second. It was interesting. It was a pivotal moment for me to go, okay, take notes. You need to up your game and be more on. You need to crank up your performing. And next time you're going to join in with a new cast, you need to mind your manners. You're not going to alienate yourself. You're not going to have anyone make fun of anyone, because that is horrible to do to anyone. Even that was blah, blah, blah. So
we all do stupid things when we're young. It's
growing pains, and you learn. And so the next go around, I mean, 2 of these people came to my wedding, best friends for life. I'm like, God, I love these people so much. And I had the most incredible summer of my entire life. No offense, husband and kids. It was the summer of 2010. Oh, it was so good. God, we used to always joke about the conspiracy.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I was so depressed that summer.
I remember
I was in New York City and I was having such a hard time.
I remember being on my lunch break and paying for long distance overseas calls on my cell phone, talking to you, helping you. Me. It was really
raw. I just turned 19 and my program in New York ended, and I was like, I'm alone here. There's so many people that live in the city, which makes you feel more alone. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm taking as many classes as I can, but it was hard. But it's funny how it's sometimes when you're having the best, someone's having the worst, and vice versa. It's just,
you just stay in your bubble, maintain awareness, but then you just continue on what you're doing. Yeah, but that summer we did so many adventures. We went, oh my God, it was so amazing. If you do get that type of opportunity, right?
Mhm.
And you go to a place like Tokyo Disney, or there's other Disneys you can work at, but it doesn't even need to be on the Disney end. It can be on cruise ships. It can be on isolated gigs at hotels or travel tours or whatever. When you have time off, see as much as you can. Absorb as much of the culture of where you are as you can, or
Because
else
you're there.
you miss it.
Yeah.
There were a handful of dancers in both contracts that all they did was go back to E-Village and sit there because they wanted to save their money. And
which is good too. Like, I think I've said this. I haven't done a cruise ship
you
video
can
yet,
do
and I will.
both.
But like,
They pay you enough.
you can do both to like budget out saving. And I have said in a video before, like, definitely save your money so that after this contract, you have the cushion to go back to the hustle and take class, and you don't have to wait tables on the side. Like, it's an awesome way to just kind of extend. It's always what I did. But when in Rome, like, and literally for me, I was in Rome at one point. And so it's like, don't miss it, because it's going to be more expensive later to fly there on your own dime and do it all. Like, go see it, experience it. Like, part of the being rich is the experience.
I still came back with 25 grand.
Yeah, sick.
In my bank account, just
age.
Ready to go. Yeah, I was 22. Nobody just gets that. That was, and I blew a lot of money when I was over there. Like, and
like I said, like, maybe be smart.
You can do both.
You know, it's like there are, and I've done contracts where I'm on more saver mode. Also, if you just isolate yourself and because you're like, I'm saving, I'm doing nothing, like, you're gonna get depressed.
Yeah,
you're gonna get depressed. It's the work is not enough.
Yeah.
Which, like, speaking of that, like, so it's go explore in this, that, but like, I have a question for. I have my own tactics, but so in a show, you did 5 shows a day.
Yeah.
5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing over and over and over. How did you keep it fresh?
How did I keep it fresh? So I think it's going to be different for everyone because we have different personalities.
Absolutely.
So for me, I am a Pisces, and I find general joy and dinking around. Oh, and this part feels good. And then I like this part, and this part's good too. You know, things of that nature. So I just enjoy, like, this part, and I go down the thing, and I just
kind of be present. Yeah.
You just have to stay present. It's like very meditative, as if you choose to just be present every day. Put glue on your fake eyelashes.
Which obviously it's not going to be like that though. Every show, like, I'm sure you've had shows where you're
hungover.
Hungover. I've had hungover shows when I was just dancing. Once I got my feet off the ground and just went aerial route, like, I was very strict on my drinking because that's life or death. Like, I think I did one time at Cirque. One time we had an extended day add-on show, and it was like we're only doing half the show, and I was like, whatever. And I was hungover, and I was like, it was so scary, just not feeling in control of my body. But
you don't want to do that. You were saying
it sucks. It sucks. And once I was in areas, I was like, that does happen. But I was going to say also regarding you just go with the moment and just find the things you enjoy. It's 100%. But also the reality is you're going to have days that you're kind of fighting a cold or the flu, and you're like, no, I'm good enough to come in, but you feel like shit, or you're exhausted because after a while, 5 days a week, 5 shows a day, or if, when I was at Cirque, I was doing 2 shows a day, but they were much longer shows. So you're kind of doing the same workload of like, it catches up to you. And there are weeks that you are so tired, not enough coffee could get you through the day. You're a zombie. You maybe took your weekend and did a little exploring in Japan, which like you should, but it catches up. And so there's days you have to fight through shows of like, you kind of are going to get a variety of, which makes it different. Sometimes honestly that helps.
Something that happened a lot in Japan. So with the cultural difference of doing this show, a Disney show that you're like, okay, you worked at Disneyland and now I'm in Japan, completely different culture.
Yeah.
Everyone who is Japanese, who is working and dancing in these shows, everyone takes a nap during lunchtime.
So smart.
It is.
Love naps.
So I just started doing it. And so, I mean, we just started grabbing the mats, and my friend and I would go down to the basement on this cold cement, grab this stuff, grab all these blankets and pillows, and we used to get we had a basement in the show, and it's where the Mickey Mouse elevator was. We had an elevator built into our stage.
These shows are ridiculous in Japan. They spend way more money on their shows there than they do.
It's so Mickey Mouse can just appear. So he would like come up on Mickey Lift. Like it was like the Mickey Lift, like doodle, and he would just like appear, and we were like, ta-da! And we would like point to him. And he'd be like, yeah, it's me. So nap time, we would move all of the costume racks to hide the light. And my friend and I would like drape the extra blankets.
You'd make like a fort.
We would make forts every
fort.
day. So like I was literally playing like a child. My inner child was so open, and I authentically had the best day ever every single day. If you can find someone to have that connection with and not force it, so it doesn't happen overnight,
or every contract.
Look at the difference between my first one and my second one. The Japanese dancers who were always there year round, they were like, Giselle, you are so different. We didn't know that this is your personality, because this is not who you were in the first contract. And I'm like, I know, I'm so funny. But I
think that's such great advice though, and I've never thought about it, but I've done it too, is like just like playing every day and finding like a way to like, and I see the people I've worked with in different shows, the ones that are like coming off stage like in tears laughing because they're like, oh my God, or
yes,
and then we're like playing games. Like I told you in my Disneyland parade one, like we used to play games on the route, and like those were my best memories, but that makes it like, it's so amazing and so fun. It doesn't feel like work. It takes
a lot of finesse though.
To professionally be able to screw around.
Yes, no, because I don't condone screwing around on stage, but
I do if you can get away with it.
Yeah,
professionally, there's a fine line.
You have to know. You have to be honest with yourself at what you're capable of.
Some people screw around too much, and it's not professional.
And it's not.
You're like, dude,
it is not,
the audience can see you.
Yes, it's not acceptable.
I don't know.
But if you know where your limits are, and you know you can still execute perfection in your shows to deliver exactly what you were hired to do, then there are a lot.
And have fun.
I just had fun so much. We would have to like say, like whisper a magic word in people's ear and to see who had like, or like to find it, or we would play like a game called Noah's Ark, and everyone had to, two people had to like, it was like the whole cast and everyone had a different animal sound, and you had to like find your matching animal
on stage.
As you're doing. So, but here's the thing, you have to be very sneaky. So you
that's
wait
what makes
until
it fun.
You have to wait till you turn upstage and the audience can't see you, being like, bah, bah.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite is like the moments that you get to completely like face away from the audience, but then like say Giselle is facing the audience, you're the audience, and I'm here, and then I get to screw with her, and she's not allowed to laugh at me because you can see her, and that makes it even more fun for me. So those moments are.
But the thing is, in Japan, it's different in American companies, but in Japan, they are very serious and very strict. So
and the dancers take it like really seriously.
You have to be so careful of who you are going to offend, because you don't want to be that person. Yeah. It doesn't feel good inside.
Especially not just professionally, it's culturally.
It's disrespectful.
Like it's a culture thing.
You have to find your balance. Mm-hmm. I think my playfulness, I think I may have overdid it sometimes, to be honest, in that summer contract. But I found where I could ping pong the best. So I was able to find that. When you're first in rehearsals, and that process in Japan, everything is so overwhelmingly new that it's so shiny that exhilaration is exciting enough. And you're learning 3 different tracks in one show. So it's a lot. Like you're not understimulated at all. You're just like, I am fulfilled.
Maybe stressed. Stressed.
Yeah, a little bit over the top. I don't know what I'm doing, stressed. But you're in rehearsal for like 2 full months. They like really baby you there. You get spoon fed. You ease into things, and then they rely on veteran dancers like those 2 that I met when I first landed. They rely on those people to help the new people. So then when I was in the summer cast,
you got to be that person. That's fun.
And it was exciting.
I like that kind of full circle where you're like, oh, now I know everything, and I remember knowing nothing, and now I have the knowledge to help.
I got to a point where on my days off, and I would be alone, and I realized like, oh, I don't have any friends to hang out with today, because that happens a lot over there. Mm-hmm. Or not just over there, but on contracts.
Anywhere,
When you're just alone, instead of laying in bed or just watching TV shows or something, I'd like, I want to go to Harajuku today and go down Takashita Street, and I want to go I want to go find an adventure and get lost. And I would be comfortable navigating through the system and getting there. I got to a point where I'm like, I could see myself living here forever. I love it here.
Yeah, you're so Tokyo.
I am so Tokyo.
Look at her. She's so Tokyo.
I loved
I
living
actually
there.
did. I was not. So we went to visit her, my parents and I, Christmas of 2009.
10. Yeah.
Because it was turning 10. I rang in New Year's in New York City that New Year's to go move there. So we came. I did not want to go to Japan to visit. Like we were so close. We still are, and I like missed her. But I was so eager to move to New York and start this program that I got into that I was just like, I don't care about Japan. I honestly was never interested in Japan. It wasn't on my radar. I wasn't like, oh, one day, you know, I was always Europe. I want to go to London. I want to go to Germany. I want to go. And I kind of like, I didn't fight it. I was like, okay, fine, we'll go. I'm going to go to Disney. I didn't know how much I was going to love it. Like I fell in love with Japan. I was like, wait, this is the coolest. And now I've been to like 64 countries and I've done a lot of Europe. And Europe's cool. It's beautiful. But I'm like, cool, another church, Cobble Street. I get it. I cannot get enough of Asia right now. And I've been to Tokyo twice. I went that time. And then I went back on my own with a friend because I loved it so much. But now I'm dying to do all of Japan. But like, I can't get to Asia enough. And
So
now
good.
I've done Singapore and Thailand and Vietnam. And like, but Japan's the best of all of those.
Yeah.
They're all so different. But like, I just can't. Tokyo is the coolest.
Yeah.
It's like landing on Mars, though. It's so different.
Yeah,
it's so different.
Ugh. It's so different. It's so interesting. So it's so clean, but there are no trash cans anywhere. Like
I don't understand how they operate things
because everyone just is like a good citizen.
That's
they
it.
just
Everyone
follow
just
rules.
yeah.
Everyone is very rule forward.
They give me faith in humanity. Like the last time I visited there, I'm like the way they help you and this that. I'm just like, oh, humans could be good.
Like if you started a queue or a line for nothing,
they would just line up.
People would start lining up behind you. I've seen it done 3 times.
It's amazing.
And people just stand there waiting in their like business suits, and I'm like, all right, well,
we are waiting for nothing.
Yeah, we used to play this game. So where we would race from the train station to the train platform. And we would see like if you could make it by this train to get on the last one, and we would call it Team 2012 because there was a conspiracy theory that the world was going to end in 2012. There's going to be an apocalypse. Yeah. So we used to make fun of it, and we'd be like, Team 2012. If anyone who makes it on the train gets to be on the Team 2012, we defeated it. Like we are going to survive. Everyone else dead. You're done. I know. See, games.
I was just going to say, I was like, games. And we still play that. Like at least Giselle and I, as much as we've grown up, we've never ever grown up. Like we play games. Yeah. It's just like we still are such kids. And I feel like the people that live really old, like they're so young at heart. Like I think that's just the secret to life.
If you do get this type of contract, I do want to touch base on the end portion of this job.
Yes.
Because then you have a new cast that are in rehearsals and you're teaching them and you're starting to overlap with them. And you're realizing your time at this amazing place is about to be done. And it's all going to just be memories. And you're like, okay, it's very bittersweet, but.
So you're kind of ready. Like sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to get back to America.
I missed Pop-Tarts. I don't eat Pop-Tarts. I could not wait to get home and eat a freaking Pop-Tart.
I like missed burgers in Target when I was in Europe on the ship. So we were crossing and I was like, I like really don't eat cheeseburgers that much. And I'm like, I'm not a big like Target kind of a girl. I'm just like, to me, it's like CVS. And I could not wait to go to Target and eat a burger.
That sounds so
You like crave. I know. We should do that today.
We can do that?
We could do that.
Oh my God. Okay, let's wrap that up. So last portion of my contract, I'm like, okay, I now know I'm about to reset my entire thing back to ground zero, where I'm like having to go take classes every day, back to my audition mode. And I'm like, okay, I need to get headshots. I cut all my hair off and I needed to make sure that I would like representing my headshot.
You change your hair, you got to get a new headshot.
You have to have that. So I'm like, okay. So I did that and I put together a dance reel. And I started taking a few dance classes in Tokyo because we would do at E-Village, there was this big room and we would like take turns giving class. So it was a really nice way to keep things going. So something that no one tells you about when you are doing a show like this in Japan is the repetition on your body is so repetitive that your muscle memory gets so accustomed to doing it every day that you start to lose your technique.
Yeah, even though there's technique in the show, like you're good at that choreography, but like anything else outside of the exact choreography, you're like, I don't know how. So it's bizarre.
It's okay to let it go while you're doing it, but when you're wrapping it up and you know you're going to get put back into this pond of auditioning, tighten it up. You need to crank in your wheel and tighten it up again.
It's crazy. It's like we train to get jobs, and then we get worse doing the jobs. It's like this weird. I remember like figuring that out, and I'm like, this is bizarre. Like,
it's crazy. So I go get a headshots done, and then I make a dance reel because I had a lot of footage from this show because there were a lot of Japanese people that love to take videos of us and then give them to us.
You were like mini celebrities, weren't you?
Yeah, there's a lot of
people would give you presents.
There's a lot of celebrity that happens with the Disney performers in Tokyo. It's really cute, but it's also kind of creepy. So it's just the way that it is. It's just
the Disney Japan
anything
culture.
That's cute or kawaii, they're just obsessed with. And then, especially if you have blonde hair, they're like, will touch you. It's yeah, no, if I turn around, you'd be like, she's probably Japanese. Like I have short black bob. Yeah. I look like a lot of them. I get my resume together, update my resume. I have my dance reel it's on YouTube. And then I've got my headshot. I package it all together and I send it out. I'm like, okay, what do I want to do next? I did this contract for 14 months. I lived in Japan. Now I feel like I can do anything. What do I want to do? I want to work on cruise ships. I haven't done that yet. I sent that out, that little email package, to every cruise line that I knew of at all. I get home 2 days after my plane hits the ground at LAX. I get back to Riverside. I wake up, I get a job offer contract for Princess Cruise Line. I didn't even have to go back.
The best. Man, not auditioning for jobs and getting them is like, to me, because it's just the best.
I'm obsessed. To know where your Venn diagram crosses in your timelines. That way your daisy chain never fully closes. So I was able to
hustle while you're still working. That's the smartest thing.
And I wasn't even in the country. So what I ended up doing was I signed a contract to work for shows for Princess Cruises, and I started rehearsals in December of 2010. So at that point, it was October 4th. I came home. I have 2 full months to dick around. Like really, I could go take classes. And wasn't working at Disneyland.
But you can also kind of enjoy yourself too. Like I will say, like in between contracts, it's a break. Like even though contracts, you have breaks and they're fun and stuff. Like in between my contracts, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do anything, or I want to go on vacation, or like I want to see family, because it's once you're working in these contracts, you don't get to come home for Christmas. You don't get to go to someone's wedding. Like you don't get to leave that contract.
No,
ever.
No,
unless someone dies.
And they're literally very. Yeah, it was really. I'm really proud of my past self to line up work for my future self.
It's the best.
The past.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. I'm like, how did that work? I will tell you something that is so poignant. It doesn't matter if you are working on a Broadway show or if you are working for a Disney theme park or a cruise ship. When you're on stage, it feels
stage to stage
similar.
Yeah, I've kind of said that before.
Yeah, but like it feels so similar. So I
think goals are good to like dream big. And if you're like, I really want to be on Broadway, and it's just like that thing that's awesome, but don't discredit the theme park stage that you're on going, oh, this is just like stupid, or don't discredit, like, I don't feel like I've made it and I feel like I'm failing because I'm on this stage, not that stage. You're on a stage.
Yeah.
Most people don't even get to do that.
To wrap up 1 or 2 last points that I wanted to bring up about Japan or Disney in general in that realm was something that's interesting is that your choreography on stage was actually the simplest part of the element. It was a ton of backstage choreography and traffic that you had to follow, or else you were going to ruin the show or get hit or hurt someone else. So you had to wait, like, okay, track 10, you stand here, freeze at this wing, wait for Donald Duck to walk by, 2 cars need to go, and then you go. You can't go out of that order because the room is not going to be empty for you to go into change. So it's like, everything was so specific. And I remember I didn't have to take any notes in rehearsal for choreography Backstage traffic, I had a big notebook. I was like, this is
so
hard.
stressful.
Yeah, that
well,
was
it's
hard.
like your comfort zone is on stage. It's like we know how to kickball change.
I
and
know
we're
how
so
to
used,
learn choreography.
but
It's not
backstage traffic
It
is
was like
quick changes and stuff
it
are
was very
sometimes
the
more
quick
exhausting.
changes were so complicated.
Yeah.
They were very specific. So that was a big learning curve for me. It was exciting, but it was really, really tricky. And then having a certain aesthetic when you go to an audition and you're like really wanting a role. If you are young, especially what year is it? 2025 now? If we're living now, everyone has tattoos, but princesses don't. So
yeah, depending, a lot of people are like, oh, it's fine, I can cover it up. And like, yeah, there are some jobs and some people at Disney that they'll get away with makeup. But like, if it's between you or another girl and you have a tattoo and they don't, that'll just be the easy deciding factor, depending on the costume. So, like, if they can't see it, they can't see it. But
specifically in Japan, they still have a stigma against tattoos.
Got it.
And you are not allowed to go to these like day spas called onsens. They're like hot springs you can go into to relax. You can't have an exposed tattoo at most of them.
Really?
Yes, because it's associated with the Yakuza. So they're like mafia, Japanese mafia. So now,
Yakuza.
Yes. So what?
We're not against tattoos.
No, we are not against tattoos. But you need to know where you are in your timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my timeline of I'm a mom now.
Well, you're not on stage anymore.
Yeah. I've always wanted to live my best.
And I have a lot of friends that are performers and dancers that do have tattoos, and there's a lot of jobs and companies that are fine. We're specifically more so talking about Disney,
and then layering
Japan.
it with
So it's just kind of like know your crowd, know what you want.
There were some that still had tattoos there, but on your thing, you better hope it's just like your little like live, laugh, love on your wrist,
and you can cover it up.
And you can cover it, and then if it's just a little boop boop. And you're on your like application form at the audition and they're like, do you have tattoos? You say, nope, sure don't.
Yeah, just pretend you don't.
You don't. Yeah. If it's
get the makeup, cover it up.
If you have a thing, you can't lie.
Hide that, yeah.
You can't hide. But if it's like a boop boop, you can please don't admit that you have that.
Good advice.
Yeah. And then you could always use like tape or like the makeup or whatever.
There's so many options now.
So many options.
Well, yay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your Disney Japan experience. We are definitely going to have Giselle back to discuss more of her career because not only after cruise ship, she also worked at Disney World doing the Beauty and the Beast show. So you've hit 3 different Disney parks around the world in different, not only states, but countries.
Yeah.
So exciting. And then she's obviously, we've talked about married, has 2 kids. My nephews, I love them to death. I'm so happy you have kids so I can be an aunt.
I know.
Be a cool aunt. But we're going to have her back so we can talk more about transitioning out of the entertainment world and becoming a mom, because I think that's a huge topic for a lot of people. And it's a difficult transition. That comes with a loss of identity. And you went through that phase. But that will be another video. So stay tuned for that. Yay. Yeah, thanks so much for joining. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Have you ever been to Tokyo? Have you been to any other park around the world? And give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, do so. So you don't miss the next video I do with Giselle, because she's pretty awesome. And so am I. Just kidding. Love you guys. Bye.